There's some technical challenges with filming in the location, which would be very preventative for us to do the whole film there. But we want to be honest about it, so instead of making up a slot canyon, Danny sort of charged me with recreating it. And because of the nature of the story, which is that he's stuck in this one position and he can't go anywhere, and we're there stuck with him as the audience, it couldn't be something that was a departure from the real place, because Danny did want to come to it, and there is something to be said about filming it in the real place. And taking all of that in and taking the necessity for that kind of honesty was a real challenge, because unlike building a piece of architecture where you have right angles and you can measure things in a rather controlled way, and you can have your army of assistant art directors kind of with their measuring tapes and their laser levels and whatever, kind of doing all that. These canyons, they're so organic. They scoop, they undulate, there's crazy striations, they're changing always. Well, for one thing, this is the first film I've done with Danny in 4, where I am both the production designer and the costume designer. This will be my third film as the costume designer, but my first one as the production designer. And I did work in the art department. And I've actually, in my own career, I'd been sort of art directing for a very long time and simultaneously designing costumes for theater. So they knew, and Danny comes from a theater background, I come from a theater background. There's a design for me, and I think for him, by virtue of the fact that he keeps hiring me and having me back, is less about the aesthetics and more about creating a world in which that story that he's interested in takes place. In terms of doing both the production and costume design, this was sort of the perfect one to do both, because it was in some ways very limited what we could do and what we could, how we could, it wasn't kind of an open-ended book, but because it's a Danny film, it is. So there's just that balance between making a film, a Danny Boyle film, and bringing a life to the story that is already so well documented. And so it would have been much different if it was a period or a fantasy or something where I just don't think there would be the time to do both. I don't think it would be possible, especially with someone who has a vision like he does, which is sort of exploding every moment of the film for what it could be.